It's the SWP Disciple checking in. It's 9:27, just leaving East Hampton, the sticks of East Hampton, for some old man run. And boy, I'm about to be sore. There's 11 of us. Got a pretty good run. I think we only lost one and won 3. I played all right. My defense was all right. Once I adjusted to my man, I'd never seen him before, so he back cut me like 2 or 3 times. But then once I was able to sit down, I was able to lock in. Can't say much for my offense, so I think I was like 1 for 8. Handful of rebounds. Nice little block though on a fast break on a surefire layup, and I kind of chased it down and got it off the backboard. So I can still jump a little bit, and then just narrowly missed another one too, and another one that somehow got through even though I blocked it, kind of. But anyway, at this point I'm just happy to not get injured and get a good sweat. I'm about to, for the last half hour, go to my other gym, or actually by the time I get there it'll be more like 10 minutes, or 20 minutes rather, and just get a little stationary bike time just to cool down and burn it out. And then I'll have my nightly fat back. So the yik yak of the day, the chatter of the day, Ayesha Curry, she's back. I feel like 2 years ago she gave some mutterings, I think before they had their, didn't they just have a 4th child? She's definitely doing the mother thing. Because what, they have like the 2 older girls, and they have Ken, the boy, and then I think they have another girl maybe? They're all lovely looking kids. But anyway, I think like 2 years ago, she'd said that like, you know, she has no like activity really in her DMs, and she wished she were more attractive. Almost speaking like a stream of consciousness, which is never a good idea publicly, because then it's like just subject to interpretation from everyone, and more often than not, people are just going to interpret it the way they feel. And of course, some of the women are pushing back like, well, y'all men are really pretending to not understand what she's talking about. And you know what? I kind of agree. So I guess before I get into that, I wonder how Steph feels about this, because clearly he's trying to go about things along the Russell Wilson Sierra route. Now obviously it's a little different in terms of like Sierra, you know, she had a baby of Future before, so maybe not ideal in the sense, but they're trying to do like the squeaky clean, almost like the white way of going about things, whatever, like, you know, God, family, and my guns, like, you know, just going straight down the middle. To a lesser degree, LeBron's doing the same thing, even though, like, you know, he has like his own like liquor that he endorses. He cusses quite a bit openly, you know, has a podcast where he's still talking about like low-key like N-word type stuff, whatever, but like at the same time he's certified and affiliated by all the white guys you need to be affiliated with, like, you know, like JJ Redick and, you know, Mike Miller, guys like that kind of like legitimize. I mean, he is the royalty of the NBA and of basketball basically since MJ, though he's like polarizing, and probably just as many people that don't like him as do like him, but he's like successful, notwithstanding. But Steph Curry is kind of, who, believe it or not, I think he makes more money than LBJ, like not just NBA, but like off the court as well, a little bit more. I think they're both like in the 140 million like range, which is like figures I can't really relate to. I can remember when Schumacher and Tiger Woods were like leading the pack like every year, and they were making like 70, 80 million, and now I think LeBron's maybe like 4th or 5th on the list or whatever. You know, you got a couple soccer guys, whatever. I kind of don't count them because they get that Arab oil money, whatever, which to me doesn't really count. But anyway, I understand what Ayesha Curry's talking about, right? So if you remember how they met, right, or how the story goes, right, because they've known each other since they were like kids, and then I guess they went to like not high school, but like church or like Sunday school together or something like that. So they've known each other since they were kids, and then they were like kind of like high school sweethearts, but no, I think then they reconnected like when he was at Davidson, but they'd known each other for a long time. And I guess the implication was, you know, she wasn't really checking for him. She was like the hot girl. She was like on her way to an acting career, I think is what. And I think she still fashions herself as an actress, and, you know, she does like the cooking thing, and I think she has like her cooking line and stuff, though it's kind of of transitioned to where it's like on the back of Steph Curry, like on the back of his celebrity, and she's basically known as Steph Curry's wife as opposed to Ayesha Curry, the thespian, you know, in her own right. And my guess is that that kind of rubs her the wrong way in the sense of like, you know, she was the prize or the lead, and now she's pretty well in Steph's shadow, which is weird. You know, Nas made a song, I can't remember the name of the song. I'm kind of bad with that. Like I can remember like certain lyrics and I can remember the premise of songs, but sometimes remembering the title, probably because I never really knew the title and I just jumped into the song. But anyway, he made a song about being basically jealous of his own child, and you know, I guess being jealous of your spouse is in a lot of ways very, very similar, because like, you know, celebrity a lot of times, or whether it's like local celebrity or just, you know, being the man or being the woman or whatever it is in your ecosystem, it can be kind of random. Now obviously Steph put in a lot of hard work and became like, you know, one of the greatest basketball players of all time without, and as a like a regular sized person too, like, you know, like on the 6'3" side of 6'2", but without really having great athletic ability. I guess you can say having like preternatural shooting ability and hand-eye coordination is a superpower, and that's like a form of athleticism from what I understand. You know, well, I know he's good at golf, but from what I understand, like all of the like hand-eye coordination type, like, you know, just not like at the MLB level, but like, you know, baseball, things like that or whatever. I guess he's just really good at it, and he has like a knack for it. He just kind of picks it up really quickly. So that's like a form of athleticism, right? It doesn't always have to be like run, jump, or whatever. It can be, you know, like I said, preternatural hand-eye coordination and just, you know, your motor skills firing the right way. It's like the equivalent in life. You know, there's some people where they're greater than the sum of their parts, right? They're not necessarily the smartest, not necessarily the best looking, not the most affable, whatever, but somehow everything comes together and works out well for them, and they're like, you know, well liked, and they just do really well in life. I know people like that. I call it, you know, because, you know, me being the sports nerd, I guess you could say that I am, I kind of filter life through sports and through sports analogies. So I call it like, you know, crowding around the line of scrimmage. So it's like tantamount to the you know, like the linebacker who's just always around the line of scrimmage, not particularly athletic. I can't remember his name. He's a linebacker for the Dolphins years ago. I think he's actually married to like Jason Taylor's, like he's related somehow. He's like an in-law with Jason Taylor. You know, if no one hasn't been divorced by now, right? You know who I'm talking about. He was short. He was probably like 5'11". You know, kind of a high motor guy, but like not very athletic. Why can I not remember his name? I'm picturing him right now, kind of like a blocky structure, musclehead looking cat. I can't remember his name right now, but I'm picturing him in my head. He's like from the, you know, the 90s, linebacker with the Dolphins. But anyway, and of course Jason Taylor was with the Dolphins. He was like a defensive end. Damn, I cannot remember his name for the life of me right now. I'll probably put it in the description box. But he was just, you know, recover fumbles, you know, little tip interceptions. Sorry, I'm hitting like the rumble strip. But he was good. Probably a near Hall of Fame. I don't think he made the Hall of Fame, but like, you know, made a handful of like Pro Bowls or whatever. It was just one of those guys that just, you know, kind of like the Wayne Corbett of linebackers. But yeah, there's people like that. I know people like that where they've, you know, kind of carved out a pretty decent life for themselves just by just being around. And in a lot of ways, in an NBA sense, I think that like undersells Steph Curry, but you could kind of say the same thing about him, where he's definitely made the most of his gifts. Let's just say that. Conversely, in my own life, I think I'm somehow like less than the sum of my parts, but that's like a whole other video. So there's a video making the rounds right now. It's from like the 1950s. I'm sure you've seen it. And this young man, young lady, they go on a date. And of course, you get like sticker shock, but in the other direction of how cheap things were in the 50s, where it says like 50, 60, but they're talking about cents. So you can get like a cheeseburger for like 65 cents. And it's like a nice restaurant. And then, you know, obviously this is like kind of like pre-second wave feminism. So the girl is very like deferential. You know, he's very like chivalrous and pulls out the chair for her. You know, asks her what she likes, but then in turn she's not like rinsing him. So there's like a narrator, and she's like, she looks at the menu, and you know, kind of checks for what he orders, and then uses that as a marker to not order more than what he gets. So it's not like, you know, today, you know, even if you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna get a actually I'm gonna take the scenic route. You know, I'm just gonna get like a salad, a chicken salad or something like that. And the girl's like, yeah, I want like you know, a couple lobster tails, some you know, a ribeye, like, you know, like surf and turf, whatever, and trying to get like a doggy bag or whatever. Like, you know, that's the stereotype. So in other words, like, you know, she's playing her role. Like with Ayesha Curry, it's almost like she's kind of reaching for her own celebrity. And the thing about it is, like, I get what she's talking about. It's kind of like seeing yourself as one thing, and actually you were this one thing, and then I don't want to say out of nowhere, because Steph's been a star really since Davidson, which is already, that's been the better part of 20 years. That was like 08, 09. So, you know, if you can't get used to a certain role after 17 years, then it's like, I don't know what to tell you. But all right, let me go up here. I feel like there was a sign there, and I just they must have pulled it up. It's a good thing I do remember this way. It's kind of a shortcut. But yeah, but she's still like fighting it. But the problem is, again, she's speaking like stream of consciousness, so it just looks bad. And I can't tell if it's like a device or a ploy, and Steph is like signed off on it. He's like, yeah, you know, I'm all for your freedom, and just, you know, do you, and we'll just figure it out, whatever you want to do. It's your world or whatever. But I can't imagine him being okay with it. Now a lot of people are speculating, like, you know, if he wasn't trying to do like the Russell Wilson thing, he probably would have divorced her and da. I don't think so. Not after 4 kids. I think they love each other, and I think they get along just fine. I think she's just kind of rebelling a little bit. And for me, I remember with my ex, she would always ask about, like, you know, what are your rules, and like, you know, how do you feel about roles and da. And I would always tell her, like, I don't really have a lot of rules. I don't necessarily believe in roles, because the thing is here's the thing, right? People are gonna do what they want to do anyway. So setting up parameters and stuff, you know, if you're intelligent people, right? And my ex, all my exes really were very well educated, very high end. There's no need for us to coach each other up. I mean, obviously sometimes you gotta, like, you know, have a little powwow, talk about certain things or whatever. So, like, you know, we have like a united front, and we don't embarrass each other, yada yada yada. But the thing about people is they're gonna do what they want to do, right? So I think she's just kind of, in a sense, gone rogue. A guy like me, I can handle it. I don't have much of an ego in that sense or whatever. And, you know, if someone asks me, they're like, yeah, you know, I understand where she's coming from. You know, I would even be deferential and say, like, you know, I know that, like, you know, I get a lot of the accolades because I'm a basketball star, blah, blah, blah. But, like, you know, she's really the superstar of our household, and she's my motivation, yada, 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 whatever you got to say. And it wouldn't even be lies necessarily either. And, you know, I think... I think that's how Steph feels. Obviously, I'm not in his head. I'm just speculating, just like anyone else. But I wouldn't be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, if I were him, I wouldn't be to the moon that she's out there basically saying that she wouldn't mind having, you know, the male gaze outside of the house. But come on, we're humans, right? So after a while, after being together for 20 years, I'm sure she appreciates some outside attention, even if she doesn't want to act on it. What geez, why can't I remember his name? Howard. I've got basketball brain right now. So, like, you remember from The Best Man, you know, light-skinned cat. I can't remember his name, but, like, basically, you know, they're playing cards. He's stirring the pot. You know, Morris Chestnut ends up jacking up not Omar Epps, but Tay Diggs, because, you know, he dipped out with what became Morris Chestnut's wife or whatever. And then, you know, Howard, let's just call him. I can't, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's like, you know, ain't nothing better than some pee, except for some new pee or whatever. And, you know, women, they have a drive as well. I'm sure, you know, she feels the same way. And like, oh, you know what? I'm looking at the wrong time. It's really 9:32. I forgot that's like 10 minutes fast, since my phone's no longer plugged in, so it's not Apple CarPlay. My mind is just like scrambled right now, so I gotta like actually think a little bit for just basic stuff. So yeah, I'm sure she feels the same way. I'm sure she would, at this point now, it's kind of routine. Some people are like speculating like, oh, maybe he's not laying it down in bed or whatever. And then of course other people are countering, well, they got 4 kids, and they're like, oh, that doesn't really mean anything. And I'm like, damn, you guys are getting like all in their bedroom. It probably has nothing to do with that. People like attention. Women love attention. I've had the, I don't know, pleasure, displeasure of having like some exes where they can't stand to be, actually my mom is like this to a certain degree. It's my mom's birthday today, by the way. Happy birthday, Mom. I put up a nice little post for her on her birthday, and got her a nice like necklace and a big Yankee candle for her birthday. Of course, she's like, oh, you spent too much on me. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it, Mom, because you're Mom. And but yeah, she had a nice day. Anyway, little sidebar. And she's the tender age of 64, so you can do that math. I was 46 last month, so she had me young. I guess the blessing there is that hopefully I have her for a long time. Well, actually, into my elderly ages, I should still have my mom. Knock on wood. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of things have become routine, and she's like, I wouldn't mind having, some outside attention, even though I don't plan to act on it, even though we know that, like, idle hands do the devil's work, right? So maybe that temptation's not there because, so she wouldn't pull a Jada Pinkett Smith. In any event, blessings to them. I totally understand where she's coming from, by the way. Like, being together for a while, I mean, we've all seen relationships that we thought were rock solid and they were together for the longest time, and then, someone stepped out. As I get older and, more mature, even as I've been single for 3 years now, I used to be one of those people where I'd say like, oh, if my girl ever stepped out, I'm out. But, it's not that easy, especially once you reach a certain age, to meet new people. And, after years of molding each other and, being very comfortable with each other, you don't just want to walk out after one person makes a misstep. Again, God forbid, right? But I think what's happening is that they're just kind of she's just kind of talking in public. Probably not the best thing to do, but then again, I think she just kind of wants to be heard and maybe doesn't feel seen anymore. Steph Curry, in addition to just being in the NBA, he actually stumps for, he stumped for or campaigned for Kamala Harris, which I commend. I'm a Kamala supporter. He does that. The NBA has like all their main stars go and tour in China in the summertime because that's like a huge market. In addition to his duties for Under Armour, because he has a signature shoe with them now. I think that like in its probably like 15th edition now or something like that. So he has a lot of other things. I'm sure he's not like I'm sure he's a doting father, but he's not just home being like daddy dearest and the greatest husband in the world or whatever. So again, I understand her. Probably not the way that I would want my wife to go about things, but I get it. Much ado about nothing. Hopefully I don't eat those words and it doesn't end up becoming a greater thing. But clearly he's trying to do like the squeaky clean, white boy sincere, Russell Wilson type thing. But all the best to them, and I'm sure they'll be fine. All right, let me go get some extra cardio in for my fat butt. The Lord is faithful. Stay with me. God bless.